Boys and girls, episode 3 here coming at you with our off-season review for the Joe Millionaires division. Welcome back. Lots of engagement on Friday around the first one that we did, and then again today. We're recording on Monday for the second one. We'll see if we release this Friday. There's a chance to get peer pressured into it, but I like this spaced out discussion, and it gives us some time to really watch it and all that. So you guys know how it works. Friendly reminder, all of you did it. Well, most of you did a survey. Kind of giving your thoughts on the offseason for each team. We went over the first 8 teams, and now we're here to go over our last division, the Joe Millionaires division. Code back with me again. And again, we're just going to get right into it. So let's take a look at the Kung Fu Pandas, the team that we're starting with, the division leader that picked the team name after having a dominant top record in the league all time. Notably lost Juwan Jennings and Matt Stafford, notably gaining Sam Darnold. Enter the rookie draft with just 2 picks. 214, 402 comes out with Scattaboo, Royals, Dylan Sampson, Dylan Gabriel, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Not an all-star grouping of players out of the draft, but a lot of good depth pieces. Cam Scattaboo is really popular. Jalen Royals could be tied to Mahomes for a little bit, and Lord knows they needed all the help they can get on offense. Dylan Gabriel could be the future in Cleveland. Who knows? A couple dart throws. Not a bad draft.
Like 5 options at quarterback there.
Yeah. It's insane that there are 5 players that could be your starting quarterback, and it's very much the epitome of if you have 2 starting quarterbacks, you don't have one. Well, what about 5? Then you've got the Matt Stafford lost, and Juwan Jennings lost, and Sam Darnold gained. Sam Darnold's a very polarizing figure, I think, in fantasy on whether or not people think he could be good, could not be good, like him, don't like him. Jennings on track right now to be the wide receiver 1 for his team. Pearsall dealing with a hamstring injury. Obviously, Debo's not there. Ayuk still might not be ready for the beginning of the season, so you've got a player who all of a sudden could be the wide receiver 1 for their team, which is insane. Stafford just getting old, and he's never really been a fantasy producer, but Darnold had a great year last year, so that's the Kung Fu Pandas offseason. Let's talk about what you guys think of their offseason, coming in at a 2.36, tied with the implications for the second lowest. The Unicorn, we're just meant to be, man. Lots of different feelings on this one, and here come the Canadian slurs. What's interesting about this one, it's rare, so I said it's tied with me, and it's one of the lower scores. Not a single 1, not a single 5, also no 4. So it was either 2 or 3. So a lot of people just kind of feeling okay about Unicorn's offseason. Let's read the 3s first. First comment, boring. Yeah. Other one, nothing special, right? Like,
Well,
terrible,
I was going to comment on, like, Darnold, because it's like, Darnold, the one-hit wonder is kind of when you come to mind, because, like, for fantasy last year, obviously, in Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and just that offensive environment, like, he could very well be a one-hit wonder, because he definitely wasn't doing shit for the Jets or the Panthers or anyone else he played for, you know what I mean? Yeah. But he did get paid by Seattle, and I think they've got, like, a Clint Kubiak's their coordinator, I think, so they're going to be running an offense similar to what they did in Minnesota, so maybe Darnold will be good, but I mean, that offseason, it kind of similar to mine. It's like boring, not really anything flashy. Replaced Stafford with Darnold, which, maybe that's an upgrade, but like in real life, I would rather take Stafford over Darnold. But then again, fantasy, different game. So
yeah, and the good news is either way, it's his QB2, right? Sits with Lamar and QB1. Has had him really since the beginning of the first season we had. Didn't draft him. Some idiot traded him, Lamar, very early on for DeAndre Swift, which aged very well. So he's had Lamar pretty much. Yeah, no, not at all. He's had Lamar pretty much the entire time, so he has that in his pocket, which is nice. 2 other teams giving a 3 without leaving any comments. The last team giving a 3, leaving a comment. Not much to work with this offseason, but did well considering, and I think that's fair. Now, the other 7 teams did give Unicorn 2 stars, and let's talk about what they said. The first one, run it back, but worse this time. Guess who this is? Keep holding on to those glory days, you Canuck. You'll remember them fondly when you're part of the 51st state. We know who that is. Would love to see them more active, but it feels like this could be enough to stay competitive in the Joe Millionaires division. Concerned there is not enough to get over the playoff slumps. The end is nigh, And over under Scott Hansen mentions any of these players at 17.5. So I would take the over simply for Lamar Jackson, but I understand the
Yeah.
if you're doing player by player, I think that there is a case to be made for the under there.
That's
So
interesting
lots
because
of
like that comment about the over under Scott Hansen mentioning the players, it's like that means that people or somebody thinks that a lot of his players are like just either washed, has been, or just are not going to be mentioned. Like that obviously means they're not going to be scoring on red zone. You know what I mean? So like,
right.
just that is a very interesting topic because I mean he still has like a solid roster to compete, but it's definitely like not as like stacked, I guess, as like
Right.
Brownout or Cam or even my
It
roster.
definitely feels like it's fallen off over
Yeah,
the last couple of years. I
right,
mean,
a little
it has
bit.
consistently been a conversation of brownout and inaugurals or whatever their
Yeah,
name was at the moment since they've changed it 18 times. And the Pandas have been very much intertwined, and it definitely doesn't feel that way this time around. Unicorn even saying that in the chat today. Additionally, kind of saying what somebody else said in their comment of, this might be enough in the Joe Millionaires division. This might be the new Jamarcus Russell division, which was
yeah,
whoever makes it in is probably losing the first round anyway. And I think that happened every single time, if not awfully close to it, where they were gone.
yep,
And so you wonder if that's kind of the same thing. A couple pieces here, a lot to like on the roster, but nothing to really maybe be enamored over. And there's a lot of contracts that are expiring. I do want to make sure I give Unicorn some praise here, which pains me, but I do want to at some point in time. But a lot of people's contracts going away: DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill, George Kittle, Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, if you count him as an important contract, Tyler Algier, if you count him as an important contract, Shaheed, who he picked back up. Lots of different things happening with
yeah,
this team. And Unicorn for the first time is in a really different position than he's used to being in, where he actually has a choice on whether or not it makes sense to not for the first
right.
time ever. And it really depends on how these first couple weeks go. What I
Yeah.
really love. Oh no,
Go
you
ahead.
go first. Yeah, no.
Okay, so I was gonna just comment on like some of those like 1 year guys. Like I know DK just got paid in Pittsburgh, but we'll see how he does for fantasy because he's probably not worth 120. It's funny every time everyone says something about DK sucking, it's like he proves us why he's still a good
Yeah.
NFL wide receiver. Um, but yeah, I mean he's got like some of these guys like Tyreek and Kittle, like that cap hit is like manageable. You know what I mean? It's not like that's like an egregious number, especially because he still has. I think he's fine in his cap, right? Like this
Yep.
is the kind of the tough year for him, but next year and the year after he's good.
And
Like
that's the point that I want to make.
yeah,
Is
go for it.
he's got nothing this year, $600
Yeah,
in cap space next year. So one of the teams that's higher in the cap end market, and so it's really interesting whether this was done intentionally or not. But it seems like it was done intentionally. If this is a challenging year for Unicorn, it's not going to be this multi-year rebuild. I don't think. I don't think it's going to be
yeah,
one of those situations. He's going to be in the situation where, hey, this is tough. Let me see what I can get for some of these expiring contracts. Move on, and then next year I've got $600 in cap space. I'm good to go, and he's right
right. Yeah,
back in it. And so,
re-sign Lamar Jackson, re-sign Kittle,
yeah,
probably. Yeah,
yeah. You see the years that these players that we're highlighting right now have, and then you make
yeah,
decisions based off of these guys, right? Because Dawson Knox isn't going to do anything nuts. Cooper Rush, Rasheed Ali, like they're not going to do anything. But like you have some big pivotal decisions to make, and the ones that are having good years, you can choose to hang on to or move on from at their cost, and this and that. And I think Unicorn is known that he's in this spot, and has said that he knows that he's in this spot. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of the decisions that he makes here, because his team is in a different spot for the first time, but he's going to be out of the end of that other spot very quickly with plenty of cap space
yeah.
sitting in the bank for him, I think. I don't
Is
think
that
there's
all the
much, if at
was
all,
that all
in
the
cap next year.
comments?
Yeah, those were all the comments.
Okay. Well, because I was gonna say one more thing. I think that man, pains me to say this too, but it's like Dak Prescott. I don't know if anybody else has gotten or like heard a lot of flack about Dak in like any other leagues, but it's like some people seem like they're really low on Dak, and it's like I know he's a Cowboy, I know, right? But like, dude has like QB1 finishes in fantasy, and it's like we know that offense back in the day was putting up a ton of points at home, but they're still a good team at home when Jerry doesn't have the fucking blinds down or up or whatever.
See that bit we did with the
I
sunglasses?
mean, But I'm just like, I look, looking at Dak, because it's like, if he's healthy, he definitely has like another QB1, or not, maybe not QB1 overall, but like QB1 season in him. And if you got Lamar and Dak holding it down, yeah, maybe that is enough to win in the Joe Millionaires division.
Yeah. And once you make it to the dance, anything can happen from there.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think that Dak is perpetually undervalued in fantasy football, but I just refuse. So
Yeah.
Dak almost reminds me of like how Purdy was 2 years ago and a year ago,
Yeah,
where it's
all the
just
hype
like,
on him.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, even the opposite. People are like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And it's like, dude, what else does the guy have to do? You know?
Yeah.
And I know that Purdy gets memed on, especially in our league with the Cade thing. But like, it's like, at what point in time are we going to value Purdy? At what point in time are we going to value Dak, who's done it and been there?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that Dak is a incredibly serviceable quarterback too. I think it makes sense to move on from Stafford, who had a big contract, and trading him away and getting what you can, and signing Darnold. I think that was smart. I think that Unicorn manages his cap very well, and that kind of shows with the trend that he has for this year. So
Yeah.
let's keep it grooving. Let's talk about the next team in our list, and that's Win Like Flynn, the darling of the league. But as I said before, Flynn, once you start getting successful, you start getting hated. Lost Sam Darnold, lost Derek Carr, but gained Devonta Smith and gained Justin Fields. Flynn lost two quarterbacks, only gained one.
Gained other QBs as well.
Yeah, but those are the big ones, the big names there. 107 and 213, Turner, Nick Quinchin Judkins, and Tyler Shuck. So Flynn sticking and picking and happy. Ended up taking Shuck for the Derek Carr handcuff, I imagine, and now here we are, where Carr retires and Tyler Shuck is probably the starter if they can figure out the contract thing. He's pushing to get it fully guaranteed, and I kind of don't blame him, especially since he's going to be getting murdered, and this is probably his one chance, and it's with probably the worst team talent-wise in the NFL. But Quinshawn Judkins should be a fun running back, and I think it's a wide-open depth chart for him to take over, especially after Jerome Ford took the pay cut. Like, they were telling him, we're going to cut you, or you're going to take less money,
Right.
as in you are not the guy. And so Flynn adding more to the roster, and Flynn has been baby stepping his way on the up and up, and this really could be the year for him. If you remember, he was the last team in the rotation of getting picked as one of the bottom, or no, he was randomly shuffled, and so he was definitely the one that teams wanted to avoid. Let's take a look at some of the comments here. Overall ranking 3.09, one of the higher ones in the league, just barely above average. So people thinking Flynn is in a good spot. There is a team that rated them at 5 stars. They said Flynn for the top 3 this year. There's 2 teams that rated him at a 5. The next one, Flynn took advantage of the free agent market, drafted well, and still has flexibility if Aaron Rodgers retires. He's set up great for the future and is probably the favorite to win the division. So,
well, and now we know Aaron Rodgers hasn't retired, so that's just another QB in his pocket.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flynn, by the way, the only team to have every single number assigned in a rating. So he's got a 1, he's got 5, he's got 4s, he's got 3, he's got 2s. So those were our 5s. Let's take a look at the only 1 that he received, which was, quote, he's a ding-dong for not cutting Rodgers in February. I don't think that's a crazy controversial opinion. I think it's $120 for Rodgers this year.
Yeah, and look at his other QBs he has. Like, when are you going to be starting Rodgers? Because, like, it's not like he was amazing in, New Jersey with the Jets or wherever, New York.
Yeah. Tyler Shuck, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Kenny Pickett, Spencer Rattler, for those of you.
Yeah, it's like, I know Aaron Rodgers has the name pedigree, but it's like, if you look at his, like, points per game basis, like, I think it was, like, 15 points per game for, like, a while. It's like, that's not winning you anything,
No.
There's no upside, is what I'm getting at. So, do you take the count? I mean, that's still interesting topic.
And I think that's their point. It's $120 for him. Part of me thinks you could have cut him and then gotten him back and saved money. Flynn, though, is in love with the quarterbacks, managed to hold on, and still then ended up picking up that Devonta Smith in that trade, who's fairly expensive, and some other big name players on the team. Still has a couple bucks in cap space, but who's to say that he doesn't go ahead and cut him in the middle of the season, which Yeah, that would suck, but it gives you that extra security. You get half the money back. If he cuts him in the middle of the season, he's instantly number 2 in cap space in the league. So he still has the flexibility, and he was able to sign all those draft picks, and he still made some additions in free agency. So I understand the thought process there behind the one, but Flynn feels differently.
Well,
We
and
did.
like players that like we like too. I mean, like obviously like Smitty's my guy, and Justin Fields, whatever he's gonna run the ball. He's gonna get rushing yards. He's gonna get rushing TDs. That's the Konami code for fantasy football. Like, would you be shocked if he's like QB 12 overall if he plays
I
all
would.
17 games?
I
You
would
know?
not be shocked if he was QB 12 overall and then also never played a snap again in the NFL. That would like that's kind of the
Yeah.
that's kind of the Justin Fields experience. But then you've got these people out there who are like, no, he's good. He just needs a chance, and it's just like, no, he's not. He just runs.
Well, here's
He's
his
a great
other
athlete.
chance, right? You know?
Yeah, this is the chance. Usually it's done after this. One team did give a 4, did not leave any comments, and then we've got a multitude of 3s and 2 2s. One of the 2s did not leave a comment. The other 2 collecting backup quarterbacks like they are the beanie babies that my parents told me they will have value in the future.
Wow.
That's great.
Look, I'm also the backup QB connoisseur, so
Yes.
I can't really get on that.
So Flynn is Code's dream team. But see, he's got you love the backups. Flynn likes the guys that are backups on the fantasy team. Flynn likes the QB3s. You like the backup quarterbacks to the QB1s. A whole bunch of 3s, a couple with no comments, a couple with the other ones. The addition of Smith is clutch. Judkins can be a guy. Different comment says Jerry Jeudy looks so happy just chilling on the bench. The next comment is the mid quarterback extravaganza. And yes, it is. Flynn is definitely hanging his hat with that meme, and I love that for him.
His position players are like some of the best in the division, I'd argue, or like maybe not the best, but well, no one's gonna be shocked if he's finishes first in that division.
Correct. I think that division will be a slugfest of mediocrity, but I think that Flynn is the favorite to win. I think you could argue Unicorn, you could argue Chase. Like, I think it's going to be a big slugfest between the 3 of them every year, but I wonder how hard those punches will come through. I'm not Chase. Alan. Chase. Yep. Thank you. But we'll have to see. Lots of good pieces on the roster. People forget JSN.
Marv's got to take a step forward.
JSN, Devonta Smith, BTJ, like Brock Bowers. Lots of great youth on this team. I mean, I know Marvin Harrison didn't have a great year. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba started a little slower than people wanted him to. But you just look at that starting lineup. It's just really good. Like, there's nothing to really be upset about. David Montgomery is great. If Gibbs misses any time at all, David Montgomery is an auto start number 1 every single week, and I think he's at least an RB2, if not flex player every single week. Jeudy had a great resurgence at the end of the year. Tillman was great at the end of the year. There are not many issues with Flynn, and I feel like the only reason we don't talk about him and his team enough is just because of the division he was in, the sloth of a climb he had to do with some of the early drafting, and some of the early pieces that were on his team. And here we are now where he's absolutely like, not like he's loved, like that sounds a little weird, but like we're, those of us that have been here for some time are very excited. And I don't know that there's a guy in the league that nobody else gets this love treatment that Flynn is getting. And I love that for him 100%.
He gets last season he was like very no, it wasn't close to Brown, I don't think, but like the points for, there was like a 3-way tie between him, Cam, and Unicorn for like a while. I thought
it was
close. The points for was very close. So I'm all I'm getting at. Either that or the max points for was. So it's like, take one of those teams from the old DoD, put it in the Joe Millionaires division, and it's like, yeah, I mean his team looks set for, competing for number 1 spot in this division for like the next 3 years easily.
Yeah, so Brown out leading the league last year in points for 2,450, followed closely behind by the inaugural 2,223. And then Flynn is right there at 2170. The Kangsu Pan is right there at 2175. You're also there at 2190. So it was an insanely tight race in that division, with you being kind of the fifth seed, and then Allen and Alan Morgan and Chase
But I mean,
being wild cards.
just right there, based off of like the points score, it's like I know we talk about the what division is that? The Roman and Genius division being like everyone's a playoff lock except for Rick or whatever. I mean, Flynn's like got a top 5 team based off of last year's results, and he got better this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's why that comment, Flynn for top 3 this year, would be the biggest step he's taken. Highest place he's ranked has been 5th. But, I mean, again, you talk about the journey. And coming from that journey, there's just so many great young studs on this team, in addition to intelligently placed veteran pieces like Chris Godwin, Justin Fields. I really like what Flynn's done with his team, and really optimistic for the year that he's going to have this year. Let's keep it grooving. Let's talk about Escobar's Hippos. Hinted at this a bit last week. I love that we can see the fingerprints showing more and more and more and more for Nate on this team. Super excited. Losing Keenan Allen, gaining Tank Dell and Kate Otten. Losing Keenan Allen, not a big deal, as we all know. Tank Dell, such a great pickup for a team in this situation, where there's probably not too much happening now, and Tank Dell had a lot of optimism surrounding him. Will he come back from that injury? Who knows? But I think there's enough people that are truthers of him that's a worthy investment to just let him sit there. And I think it was very smart of Nate to make a move to get him in free agency. Otherwise, enter the draft with a bunch of picks. 104, 112, 210, 304, 308, 311, 413 after his beautiful PowerPoint. And he said, these are my guys. Comes out with Cam Ward, a quarterback, which is a desperate need for the Hippos. Matthew Golden, he's a Packers fan, gets his first one wide receiver there, which I'm sure he's excited about. Take the shot on Shadur. Why not? Rumor has it in training camp he's been very fast. Ollie Gordon, Alec Iamanor, Savion Williams, Jordan James, Kyle Williams, a bunch of dart throws there at the end, and lots of optimism really for the Hippos as they've put their team together and put their fingerprints on it. This is the first time that we've really seen it become Nate's team, I think. Small deals here, there, but now it's like, when I look at that roster, I don't ever think of Dan Flashes. All I can think of are Hippos, which is great.
Well, I mean, I think his MO this whole time was, I'm drafting my guys and seeing what happens. Because like he even mentioned, I think in an earlier comment, video, interview, something, he was talking about it doesn't make sense to trade, because he doesn't have a whole lot of talent on the roster. Like he needs to draft players, see how they develop, or produce for fantasy, and then he might have some wiggle room to make trades if he wants to. But I mean, that roster was just tough because Dan didn't really ever do many moves.
Studs and duds, and his studs were Russell Wilson and Cooper Kupp. It's like all the studs that he was paying all this money to were just gone from the NFL almost as well, and it let Nate turn it over in a long way. But I love that he's putting a flag in the ground and saying like kind of just what you said. I'm not going to trade. I'm if there's a good offer, right? Like I've had many negotiations or backs and forths with Nate that have been wonderful. He's very good to talk to in trades. He just shoots it straight every time. There's no game, which I love. And he was just like, dude, if there's not value here, I'm going to stick and take my guy. And I love that. Bye. And so let's talk about what is going on. Heard that. For the record, Code with a baby at home, as you guys probably remember, and so he is here in the midst of a nap for the little girl and the wife. So you're stuck with me in the meantime. Sorry. Oh my goodness, I undeleted. There we go. Cool. You're stuck with me. Sorry guys. Let's take a look though. So we were just hyping up Nate. How did you guys feel about Nate's team? Wonderfully, actually. One of the highest in the league. I know we kind of talked the top 3 were in that first division. But Nate coming in right at 4. So out of that first division, there were just those 3. Nate's in at a 3.45. Lots of teams liking what he's doing. Only 1, 2. The rest of the teams giving 3s, 4s, 5s, And there's a lot of comments to unpack from here. The 2 didn't leave a comment. Half the 3s didn't leave a comment, but one of the 3s left a comment of, nope. Another 3 leaving a comment, it's going to be rough if Ward doesn't hit. And the last comment from a team rating them a 3 says, don't love the players, but he has some interesting young guys. I hope that they hit. And I agree. I think there's a lot of pieces here. And I really like his selection of Cam Ward at 104. I feel like even if Cam Ward is just a serviceable quarterback too, that's just such a massive step in the right direction for his team. And it sounds like a lot of people are lower on Cam Ward. I mean, the last time a 101 quarterback made it here this late, not late, 104 is still pretty early, but generally if it's a highly, if it's a highly proficient, valued, if there's a lot of hype coming in for this quarterback and they go 101, they're going a 101, 102, and I like that he slipped to 4 and was able to be picked up by Nate. Otherwise, I don't know what he really would have done there. I think picking a receiver is all well and good, but it doesn't do much for you in the long run. You can't take a running back when you're this deep into a rebuild, and so I think it's great. Other comments here from the people that left a 4. There were two 4s. One team said, really good offseason with a few mistakes. With few mistakes, not with a few. With few mistakes, everyone's draft values are different. I think it's a nice way of saying I wouldn't have taken Ward maybe there or something along those lines. Or even the Shador at 210. That's really early in comparison to where I've seen him fall in other places. But again, not a bad idea to just let him sit there. Almost similar to Morgan in the sense that we talked about. Morgan could just let someone sit there. Nate can kind of do the exact same thing and just let Shador sit there if he wants to. Because he might get a shot depending on whether or not he continues his speeding extravaganzas. This is a monologue. I imagine this is Morgan. Given the somewhat limited resources cap-wise and pick-wise, I think he maneuvered the draft well. Got the actual 101, a first-round receiver, and a real good dart throw in Sanders. The first-round guys played to expectation, and 1 or 2 of those late-round guys surprises, you might have a team that can compete by toilet bowl time. Something I haven't thought about, but 100% correctly stated there. I think that's what we all got to remember is that those bottom teams are competing in the toilet bowl. I think it's a somewhat given the implications are at 104. But, the battle for 102, 103, 101 could be massive. And if some pieces hit here, would not be surprised to see Nate make a good push and get out of the punishment. Speaking of which, we need to start brainstorming the punishment sooner than later this year, just because we got lucky with the PowerPoint idea and the fact that Nate was all about it. Would love to figure out something sooner this year, so start thinking of ideas for somebody in the league. Additionally, one team gave them a 5, said, love the chunk of dart throws for a team that needs help bad. I think that's a very wise comment, and it's not just because I made that comment. Also, someone else saying immaculate and giving them a 5. Yeah, people thinking very, very highly of Nate's team and what Nate did. Let's take a look at our last team in the division, the Deli, as we mourn the loss of codes. Justin Fields, Rashad Bateman, Khalil Shakir. Here he is in the corner. We should put a smiley face down there. Justin Fields, Rashad Bateman, and Khalil Shakir all being lost by Justin's Deli. Different players that were added. Cortland Sutton, Cooper Kupp, Tony Pollard have been gained. Totally worth it. End of the rookie draft, 109, 309. Only it came out with Woody Marks. Made a trade earlier on, picks up the backup running back for the Texans. I'm sure as a Texans fan, I was excited to make that pick at 309. I'm sure he was much less excited about that pick with the signing of Nick Chubb, but who knows, there could be a future. And Allen needs all the help he can get depth-wise. Never really been a big depth guy. If I'm not mistaken, one of the lowest rostered amount of players on his team in comparison to the rest of the league. Let me make sure I've got that correct. So he has 19 players signed on his team. That is the lowest by a pretty good amount. Most teams up in the 30s with how many roster spots we have. Nate only has 22, but again, we kind of know what he's doing with that rebuild. Flynn at 27, Brown at 26. The rest of the teams in the 30s, if not at the 35 mark. So Allen rostering very few people. Does have some cap space left, $24, so very flexible there, if that is considered flexible, considering most teams have $20 or less. So Allen could make a splash in free agency for what players are available now if some things come up. But let's talk about his offseason. What did you guys think of his offseason as we put a bow on our show? Did not mean to do that. 2.5, so a little bit below average here for Allen overall. Got a 1, got a 4, got a bunch of 3s, a bunch of 2s. Let's just go through them. The 4s. The person left the 4 said, great work, Cam. Agreed. I think Cam did a great job with his second team here. Multiple comments with a 3. Concerned there is not enough to get over the playoff slumps. Somebody a little bit lazy with a copy and paste there. Other ones, Allen has startable bench players this year. Proves my point. Thank you, viewer at home. A couple of the other 3s did not leave, or chose to not leave any comments. A couple 2s did, though. Probably did just enough to be a playoff hopeful. I think it's an interesting point. I'll come back to it. Someone with a 2-star comment said Cooper Cup. That's it. And another team with a 2-star comment, they got worse. And I think that is an interesting question, is did they get worse or not? I think when you kind of look at the different players that they gained and lost, it's fairly... Well, it's interesting. Didn't we do the Tony Pollard, Khalil Shakir breakdown in the first video? It depends on how you value Cooper Cup versus Rashad Bateman. There's so many truthers out there. I think Allen was just ready to be done with the Justin Fields experience after having him for a couple years, and so wanted to move on there. But Courtland Sutton came on really strong in that new and improved Denver offense with Bo Nix, with Sean Payton. So debatable on whether or not he got better or worse. But Allen does have a pretty strong team otherwise. If we take a look at his roster here, a couple different options at the quarterback position. And for those of you that did not remember, Penix, Stroud, and Herbert hanging out here. So he could easily move on from Fields. It's not a major loss. Picks up a whole bunch of other pieces, though. That's kind of in the meme with Allen, is he doesn't have any bench at all, literally, but he's added to it. He still has Bateman. He won him back in free agency. That's right. He cut him and then picked him back up in free agency, which was a masterclass. Pickens, or he traded him away, and then he was cut, and then he picked him right back up. Pickens, Moore, Andrews, Cup, Pollard, Bijan, Xavier Worthy, Ken Walker, like lots of good pieces there, and he will have the ability to kind of survive through bye weeks a bit more than he has in his past, I think. But it all comes down to division. That division is just interesting, and we don't know really what's going to happen with the Joe Millionaires division, and that puts the team as well as the others in an interesting spot. What I think is really fun, and the thing that I did want to talk about, and I should have had a fancy graphic here, but we kind of did this so impromptu, as Codes and I have both been dealing with things, and we both are having different home maintenance issues, which is not fun. There are really a couple teams that have kind of said, hey, I'm out this year. And that's really, from my perspective, Rudy was offsides, Escobar's Hippos, and the implications. We don't know who that fourth team is going to be in the toilet bowl. I think a lot of us believe that it's going to be Rick's team, the C-words. And so if that's the case, let's just play along and say that that is the case. The other 8 teams are all saying that they're in and ready to compete. Unicorn is the only one that I know of that has openly kind of said, hey, I might not. But he's planning to compete. And so I think that there are only 6 playoff spots, and there are 8 teams, 8.5, because Rick is not the type to just bench his people. He's going to try to win if he can. There are 8.5 teams competing for 6 spots. And it's similar to how it was last year in terms of who's going to end up in the extra pick bracket, who's going to be disappointed, and who's going to be the darling of this year. And I think it's really fun. And it's really fun to think about. And who knows the direction it's going to happen from here and what these teams do. What I do know that is going to happen is we are going to start to do our off-season interviews with you guys, just breaking down your teams. I don't know when we're going to start them. Would like to do them soon-ish, but I'm optimistically hoping to bang them all out in a very short period of time, in the sense of if I just like reserved a Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend in my head and said anytime these couple days, when can you do? Theoretically speaking, just talking about how you feel about your roster, how you feel about your chances this year. Maybe we will do another poll. I know it's your guys' favorite when I spam everybody to fill out a Google form. Maybe do another poll asking you guys to rank each division, each team in each division, and then share those results with you. I think it'd be kind of fun to say you were rated by the league as the 3rd team in your division. How do you feel about that? That you would not make the playoffs, or that you would make the playoffs, or just whatever that was. I think it will be a lot of fun to talk about, especially before the preseason starts and all that good stuff, and things get hectic with vacations and summertime and all that. That will do it for us / me. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your engagement in these. This is lots of fun. If you have any other ideas for things we can do or talk about or discuss in the middle of the off season, please let me know. Looking to do some things here as I'm still not working with my shoulder, so I'm bored. So happy to create content if it is something that we can all get excited about. Talk to you guys soon. See you in the next one.